to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Monday, August 7th. Over the next few days, we will see some changing conditions. Today, scattered showers and thunderstorms will still remain over the northern third of the Great Basin. These thunderstorms, some of them will be heavy rain producers and could see a quarter or over a third of an inch of precip out of some of these storms. Other areas will only see the increases in humidity or the continued elevated humidity levels and just some spotty precipitation. Further south, we will see winds increasing today along the Sierra Front and also over southern areas of the Great Basin, where wind gusts will be gusting around or just above 30 miles per hour and relative humidity below 10 to 15%. We did have a new fire that popped up in southern Utah yesterday, so again, that fire could be impacted by these winds today, and these winds with the drier conditions we've seen recently, along with the lightning we saw last week, will increase the likelihood of holdovers the next few days with the wind. Winds really strengthen on Tuesday in some of the same areas of southern and eastern Utah, maybe a little bit further north in eastern Utah, and we will see gusts closer to 40 miles per hour, so still very dry conditions and stronger winds. So again, 2 days of windy conditions are expected. On Tuesday up north, we will see showers and thunderstorms in the morning over central Idaho, but these should move eastward into eastern Idaho and Wyoming by the afternoon and evening, with finally some drying over central Idaho. There still could be a few isolated storms on Wednesday, but certainly quite a bit less coverage than what we'll see today and tomorrow morning. And then we will start to see another push of monsoon moisture moving up from the south, so we will see a return of mixed wet and dry lightning in southern areas possibly by Wednesday, and we'll likely see some of these thunderstorms push north and increase later in the week. Models are still kind of all over the place with timing, but it does look like we will see somewhat of another moisture surge. Over the last 24 hours, again, we saw scattered thunderstorms over much of Idaho into Wyoming and northern and northeast Utah. These thunderstorms were a mix. Some areas saw over a quarter or over a third of an inch, even up towards a half inch of precipitation in parts of western Idaho. Other areas just saw a few hundredths. So some of the heavier precipitation was spotty, but again, high humidity everywhere in the north. Our Great Basin fire activity yesterday was light, with 8 fires for just very minimal acreage and just 14 acres of growth on our large fires up in Idaho. We did have, again, a new fire, Thompson Ridge, down here in southern Utah, and that was last reported about 250 to 300 acres. Over the last 7 to 14 days, again, we saw the monsoon push, which brought us above normal precipitation in most areas. Some of the exceptions were western Nevada, which stayed dry. Southeast Utah did not get quite as much, so that area of Utah will be drying out the fastest with the winds. And then central Idaho, again, this does not include what we saw yesterday, so these totals will be going up. Our current ERCs have notably come down in Idaho, obviously with the moisture, with the showers and thunderstorms, along with the high humidity that's been continuous over the last several days. ERCs in the south are continuing to go up with the drier air that's moved in after the recent monsoon push, and some areas are near to above normal at this time. The satellite loop from this morning shows generally zonal flow, westerly flow, but we do have an area of low pressure moving into Oregon and Washington state. This will continue moving eastward and increase showers and thunderstorms today over central Idaho again. And then further south, we'll continue with that ridge and hot and dry conditions. So again, similar weather pattern today. A little bit more coverage of lightning expected today, with more moisture for showers and thunderstorms, and probably a little bit more widespread wetting rains in Idaho, especially central Idaho today. Otherwise dry and breezy down south, so we again continue to show the drying trend over much of Nevada and Utah. We did not issue high risk today for southern Utah for the increase in winds. Wind gusts will be right around 30 miles per hour. Certainly could see some holdovers stirred up by those winds, but the stronger day is definitely tomorrow. And you can see single digit to low teen RHs really over much of the southern half of the Great Basin, and the winds today gusting in the 20s to around 30 miles per hour along the Sierra Front, and then a little bit stronger, 30 to 35 miles per hour over southern areas of the Great Basin, more of a southwest wind. We will see some breezy winds in Idaho as that area of low pressure moves through, but obviously with the high RH and the showers and thunderstorms, minimal concerns for any new fire starts up there. On Tuesday, the moisture eventually pushes east. Later in the day, we will still have some morning showers and thunderstorms for central Idaho before they move to the eastern side of the geographic area. Otherwise, dry conditions in the south and the winds increase as that low passes by, so we do have high risk for those southern areas for gusty winds and low humidity tomorrow. Relative humidity remains unchanged in most areas. The winds, however, do increase and also expand north over eastern Utah. So we will see those gusts in the 35 to 40 mile per hour range, along with those low relative humidities, again, increasing the likelihood of holdovers and impacting any fires that we do have down there. As we move into Wednesday, another quick moving area of low pressure tracks across the north. So we could again see a return of some showers and thunderstorms up north. That will keep fire danger low and fire potential low in the north. Otherwise, you can see some moisture starting to move its way north into northern Arizona and far southern Utah, so we could see some of those isolated mixed wet and dry thunderstorms as early as Wednesday. You can see the response in the relative humidity, certainly not quite as dry anywhere. Instead of single digits, low teens, it's more in the 12 to 15% range, a little bit higher further south into Arizona. And winds taper off on Wednesday, but will still be a little bit breezy, but certainly both in the south and along the Sierra front, not quite as strong as what we'll see tomorrow. We will start to see winds pick up in Idaho, but again, RH is still relatively high on Wednesday. 3-day precipitation will occur with the thunderstorms up north, and you can see obviously the heaviest areas will be in the higher terrain of western Wyoming and parts of central Idaho, and then the return of moisture by midweek starting in the south. As we move into Thursday, this moisture remains in place in the south. Drying will continue in the north, so we will start to see areas of Idaho a little bit more in the yellow for significant fire potential, especially in areas that didn't see as much wetting rains. But again, the long duration of high humidities really had an impact on the fuels, and it will take a little bit of time to dry out. By Friday, the moisture moves a little bit more north into central areas of the Great Basin. We are starting to see some moderation of the fuels in southern Utah. This could change, certainly mid to late next week, depending on the moisture. We could see a little bit more areas go into the yellow, but again, the moisture is still a little bit uncertain as to how fast it will move up and how much we'll see. And then going into Saturday, it still looks like maybe the eastern half of the Great Basin will see that moisture. Again, you can see that moistening and the decreased fire potential somewhat across Utah. And then across Idaho, a lot more yellow. Again, they're seeing more drier conditions. Possibly by Sunday, that moisture moves north, maybe up into Idaho again. We'll just kind of keep an eye on that. Still, western Nevada and parts of southern Nevada still seem to be out of the moisture. 7-day total precipitation, so again, you can see across the eastern half of Nevada, parts of the Sierra and Utah where that new moisture from mid to late week will move. And then the 8 to 14-day outlook from August 14th to the 20th, showing warmer and drier conditions. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.